Now, for those of you that have watched a lot of my videos in the past, you know one of the biggest things that I harp on, and one of the biggest things I talk about, and one of the things I emphasize and focus on is presentation. The way things are presented to us as wrestling fans. And here's my thing. If you're going to hype up an event and call it a pay-per-view for free on Spike TV, then you probably need to make sure that the show actually feels like a pay-per-view that we're getting for free on Spike TV. Whether that be having the show be 3 hours, which is what I think it maybe should be, or having, let's say, a different set, making it look different, actually making it feel like a pay-per-view and not just another regular Impact. Having it go 3 hours instead of 2 like a regular Impact. It's very hard to get hyped up for a show like this when it feels like just another Impact. And by and large, I'm not saying this turning point was bad, but in all actuality, it just felt like a solid episode of Impact, not a pay-per-view. I guess maybe TNA is really hard up for money, and that's why they're pushing this Impact 365 crap with YouTube, because maybe they think they're going to make some money off of AdSense, so that way they don't pay the wrestlers late. I don't fucking know. But you're kicking off the show, with Dixie Carter doing a promo where James Storm comes in, and it's like they're trying to hype up the Impact 365 crap. He got attacked in a bar by Bobby Roode yesterday, and and I'm gonna get the cops involved unless you give me the Florida death match that I want. Oh, Christ. It just felt like one big ad for Impact 365 to me, in my opinion anyways. Now, the segment itself was okay. I still can't believe that TNA dropped the ball as much as they did on James Storm, but they did. So I just have to deal with that. But, like I said, this whole opening segment, and maybe again this is just me, but this felt like something I would just get on a regular standard Impact where TNA is trying to promote some other dumb shit like it's the next big thing, and it'll ultimately just be another big failure. One of the things to me as a wrestling fan, when I think of a pay-per-view, and I think of a match with a specific stipulation, like in this case, Falls Count Anywhere, I don't expect the match to be interrupted by commercials and last 7 damn minutes. Now, of course, I should be realizing what company I'm referring to and understand fully that TNA will do such a thing. Have Magnus and Samoa Joe in a Falls Count Anywhere match. Have the start of the match be cut off by commercial. Have the match go 7 minutes on television. That would be the type of dumb shit that TNA would do to make this show, again, feel like a regular Impact, not a pay-per-view quality product. I mean, and that's going to be your whole marketing shtick. Then you need to make it feel pay-per-view quality. You don't need to make it feel Impact quality. As far as Magnus and Samoa Joe, they did mention and emphasize the fact that these guys, during the match, Tenay and Taz were hammering on it, the fact that they had history together and trying to set up the concept of this being a match with some personal, deep-rooted feelings and emotions here, and that's all good. And ultimately, to me, the right guy did go over. So I don't have a lot of complaints about the match itself, except for the fact that it went 7 minutes and was interrupted by commercial. That's pay-per-view quality, TNA. Now, one of the things I was looking forward to on Turning Point 2013 was to see what they were going to do with Joseph Park versus Abyss. They went with that, huh? The shameful thing is this segment really features some really good mic work from Christopher Daniels. Just showing me how much he's really improved over the past couple of years as an all-around performer. Going from somebody that I thought was just another flying spot monkey and that was it, to being more of a well-rounded performer that actually entertains me. However, I can't help but feel a little bit gypped by this. I was really looking forward to how they were going to do Joseph Park versus Abyss. If this is how they're killing off the Joseph Park character, then I guess it was one of those things they had to come to at some point in time. But Man, I'm sorry. I just feel a little bit gypped by this. It really left me with a... Now, even though, again, this felt like something that belonged on a regular Impact, which is what Turning Point really felt like to me, I have to admit that I laughed my ass off when they had EC3, backstage with Burnham and Barnes, and basically told me, just flew them all the way out here, Coach, of course, to tell them that they sucked. Those two guys should have permanent jobs on the Impact roster, and they should be EC3's flunkies. And what I mean by flunkies is more like fuckies, in the sense that he just goes to them whenever he's not feeling great about himself, and he just pisses and shits all over him to make himself feel better. That's awesome, because he's a Carter, and the world needs them. And Shark Boy came back, and he dispatched of Shark Boy in quick order. Let's hope Disco Inferno's the next TNA legend that he dispatches. And then maybe after that we can get Curry Man. And oh, baby. To me, the match of the night had to be the Florida Death match between James Storm and Bobby Roode. And this match was really damn good. A shame that it wasn't the main event on this show. A shame that it wasn't the most important match on this show. That's a shame. But TNA just had some other business to tend to. But it worked out okay. As far as this, though, you have Bobby Roode go over, but James Storm never actually failed to get up for the 10 count. Gunner comes in and throws the towel. Like, you're teasing some tension between these two guys. We're either going to get a Gunner heel turn or maybe a James Storm heel turn. And some type of feud between these two. So at least you got a couple of different things accomplished in this. And then later on in the night, you have Dixie pull Kurt Angle and Bobby Roode backstage to talk about their big 8-man main event tag match next week on Impact, the Thanksgiving edition. So you know this is going to revolve around the turkey suit, and fucking Bobby Roode probably ending up having to wear the turkey suit this year. Oh, brother, I know Fool Killer is going to love that, brother. Gail Kim talked, had a match against Candice LeRae, and frankly, I'm over it already. Now, with everything I've said so far, it would probably lead you to believe, and understandably so, that I have a very negative view of Turning Point 2013, that I thought this was a shitty show, a waste of time, and all of that. I get it. But don't be fooled. Ultimately, one thing happened on this show that above all else made this show worth it. That made this ultimately a good show. Maybe made this a great show. Mr. Anderson beats Bully Ray. The Aces and Eights are no fucking more. I hope TNA buries this fucking faction from here on going forward. I hope they sit there and crucify this faction. I hope they do everything they fucking can on television to talk about the fact that this was the worst faction in the company's history, the dumbest faction in the company's history, and they do anything and everything they can otherwise to try and disavow any knowledge of the Aces and Eights ever existing to damn begin with. This is Eric Bischoff's great legacy, and therefore his great folly of all the great follies that he's had. This has to be the creme de la crap of them all. Just a simple thought of Aces and Eights finally being fucking over after damn 17 fucking months where they tried to drag this shit out 10, 11, 12 months longer than it needed to be. Good booking, you would think maybe, if it's not working or the crowd's not reacting, we either radically change things or we cut the shit off before the people fade away from it. Thank God this Aces and Eights shit is finally going to be fucking over. That, if nothing else, has me optimistic about the on-screen product of TNA in 2014. Hopefully this damn company has learned their lesson and they stay away from the big, massive, overrated, stupid factions, at least for the next year or two. They don't fucking need them. They don't do the company any good. Fucking Immortal was a joke. Main Event Mafia was a joke. Aces and Eights, an even bigger fucking joke. The biggest joke of a faction in TNA history, and I would argue the biggest joke of a faction in professional wrestling history. I'm glad to see this faction being disbanded, and I hope they bury this bitch, because this bitch smelled like shit and piss. Worst faction in wrestling history. If you don't like it, it's tough shit, because it was. And just the mere thought of this stupid faction finally, being out of my fucking hair makes me give Turning Point a positive grade this week.